Right, we're live. Hello, welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. Mick McCarthy will no longer continue as Republic of Ireland manager. Stephen Kenny takes over with immediate effect. Cian, I'll start with you. How are you feeling about this? We were due to play playoffs. The coronavirus has obviously hampered that. Mick would have had to leave on the 31st of July. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, to be honest, I was saying beforehand, and I think it's whatever decision happened, it was going to be controversial. I'm just glad they made a decision early rather than letting it tick down to the wire. Obviously, not too many people are expecting the decision to come this early, but a good decisiveness from the FAI. It's a good start rather than waiting. As you said, the end of July was when we were expecting something like this to happen. Then the coronavirus has obviously led to changes and delays. But I think overall, it's good. I'm looking forward to Kenny. In terms of my feelings about Mick McCarthy, I thought that the qualification process was good. We played all right. The results weren't good, in my opinion. And hopefully we can see, we don't really know, I suppose, how the matches will come for Kenny. Some people are suggesting that he'll have Nations League matches before the playoffs, but that's all up in the air. But I think we have to be confident. We have to be looking forward to it. And overall, I'm pretty positive.
Jer, what are your thoughts? Sorry, for some reason I hit the wrong button there and I was exiled out of the chat, a bit like Mick McCarthy from the FAI, but there you go.
Same as Cian, delighted that a decision has been supposed to be made quick and we kind of know where that stands and everything else like that. It's weird, it's unfortunate, because we thought by now, one way or another, we knew we'd be going to the Euros and after the summer. I suppose all this pandemic has kicked in. We don't really know when this game is going to be played. We're hoping the autumn. It could even be next year. We don't know. It just would have dragged on. Then, it's not a situation where, Kenny was meant to be in charge and still Mick was in charge of these, Nations League games as they go ahead. I think it's the right decision. His contract is up at the end of July. We have the playoff, but, none of Mick's results in the qualifying campaign led us to get into this playoff. We got this playoff by default from the Nations League. I think it's the right decision. Kenny has shown so far during training once how progressive he is and the good style of football he's playing there. And we got to see that implemented into the senior team as well.
But do you not feel as though, obviously at the end of Martin O'Neill's reign, we had nothing to shout about whatsoever. I thought Mick brought back a little bit of positivity and, people could say this and that, but I thought especially the home games against Denmark and Switzerland, we put it up to them. Against Denmark away, we put it up to them as well. Now, I don't think Denmark are that much greater than us, to be honest, but I do think Switzerland are a very good side. But I don't think, maybe bar the Georgia game where maybe Aaron Connolly should have came on earlier. If you're looking around and kind of pinpointing any sort of mistakes, I can't really pinpoint too many.
I think personally that Mick, his results, look, the performances were good. I was at a lot of the home games and you could see that the players were playing for him, but it almost felt like the players came out of themselves, especially in the Denmark game when we were a goal down. The Switzerland game. I just think that the lads need to really step up a little bit more. And while Mick didn't make any mistakes, maybe he was a little bit too safe at times. His formations and his tactics were, barring the Switzerland game away, I think he played 4 at the back with a fairly simple system, either 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 in most matches. And we didn't really have a right midfielder. I think he played nearly every game with a different right midfielder, whether it was Robbie Brady, Matt Doherty, Callum Robinson. I think Sean Maguire played at one point, and I just think that you need to be a little bit more imaginative on a big stage. And look, you can say, I see a lot on Twitter, people saying Mick got the job to get us to the Euros, he should have been able to see it through. Obviously, we don't know the legality and the contractual obligations that were there. Kenny might have been signed on to take over on a date, and he mightn't have wanted to change it. But look, that's all speculation. At the end of the day, like Jar said, Mick didn't really get us this playoff spot. That playoff spot was gotten by Martin O'Neill. No matter how bad we were by the Nations League, that's how we got the spot. If we'd lost every game,
I wouldn't even say it.
Sorry, go on.
I wouldn't even say Martin O'Neill got the playoff spot. We got the playoff spot because of the achievements of other teams. We were brutal in that Nations League campaign. We finished bottom with 2 points. We only got it because other countries that were in the Nations League qualified outright for the playoffs. So it's not like we've achieved anything over 2 years to get this playoff.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah,
go on, Paul.
No, go on. I thought we were moving on there. You go on, Kim. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think that the for 2 years, Mick's job was to hold the reins for Kenny to take over. In my opinion, if Kenny was ready at the start of this campaign, he if Kenny's ready now, he would have been ready to start the campaign. We didn't really have anything to lose in that. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but we had a playoff spot guaranteed. I think giving Mick the job, in my opinion, is a mistake in hindsight, because if Kenny had been given it at the start of this campaign, he would have had 8 games to set his style, 8 games to play with the players, and now he's coming in at the end of a campaign, having with a set of players that don't know him, with a set of players that they don't even know when they're going to be playing their next match. They don't know what their next match will be. So I think that, looking at it, McCarthy should never have gotten the job in the first place.
Well, fair enough. That's how you feel about it. There was obviously a statement from the FAI. Interim FAI CEO Gary Owens said this has been a difficult situation for the association and for Mick and Stephen in particular in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and the effect it has on the football calendar. On behalf of President Jerry McEnany, the board of the FAI and myself, I want to thank both men for their professionalism and their understanding in their dealings with the association in these unprecedented circumstances. These are exceptional times in Irish life, and Mick has taken that into account in agreeing to vacate the post early. So he's actually agreed to do it, but he's going to be paid up as far as July, I believe. On behalf of the FAI, I wish to express our gratitude to Mick for his service and commitment to our national team throughout his career, particularly in his second spell as Ireland manager. We wish Mick and his staff well, and we thank them for all their hard work in this European Championship campaign to date. Stephen will now begin his planning for the playoff against Slovakia, and everyone at the FAI wishes him well in our bid to qualify for Euro 2020. I presume they mean 2021. Football will be back, and we have so much to look forward to now in the autumn with the Nations League and the UEFA Euro 2020 playoff, followed by the World Cup qualifiers in early 2021. I think they forgot to say Euro 2021 now at this stage, because everyone knows.
I think they're keeping the Euro branding 2020, even though it's played in 2021, because of all of the promotion that's coming beforehand and the merchandise that's been made. So even next year, when it's played in 2021, it'll be called Euro 2020, as far as I'm aware. Same with the Olympics.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, obviously you can see there, Mick's vacated the post. I think in reality, it's probably, it gives, like I've seen, it's a very, very, very mixed reaction online, by the way. Like, it's very 50-50. Some people wanted him to stay on. Some people were happy he left. People were thanking him for coming in, though, because I do think, regardless of what, okay, we're in a playoff, blah, 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 but whatever you can say, and if you go back to before Mick was manager, I don't know about yous, but I remember the horrible feeling it was going to watch Ireland games. Now, it didn't massively improve, but I suppose the atmosphere improved, what you actually wanted to go to games. We actually seen some goals under Mick towards the end under O'Neill. I only really remember, I actually remember people just getting excited because Graham Burke came on against France and made a forward pass. That's how bad it had gotten under O'Neill towards the tail end. So for me, to see us go now, people forget he gave Aaron Connolly his debut, he gave Troy Parrott a debut, he gave Leo O'Connor a debut, so he did give younger players debuts as well. Looking back on his thing, I'd probably rate his campaign probably a 7. I mean, considering what we were going in there with O'Neill originally, to be going into contention with the last 2 games, now we had to beat Denmark or Switzerland to qualify. I think you would have bitten your hand off for that before the games were played.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in terms of when Mick took over. It was probably the lowest Irish football was in since the pre-Jack Jarlison days, probably even lower than at the end of the Steve Staunton era. The performances of the last campaign in general were actually pretty good. I'll take away the 2 Gibraltar games, because first game was always going to be a lot of nerves and the pitch and the conditions were horrible. And in the second game, they came to Viva, set behind the ball. We don't really play that well when we're the one that have to do the attack and the pressing. So I'll write off them 2 games. Like Denmark away, Denmark at home in particular, and Switzerland at home, I thought were quite strong performances. And even though Switzerland away wasn't a great performance, unlike in games under Martin O'Neill, I thought at least to try to play a bit of football and pass a bit of ball, which just unfortunately we weren't good enough on the night and got picked off towards the end and could have lost by more. But the Georgia game away for me was the real stickner. Not even so much so the result. I think it was just the mindset that night. We never actually I tried to achieve to win that game, which out of the 3 remaining games at the time was the most winnable game. And that's what kind of really annoyed me and frustrated me, particularly the fact that I travelled to the game. But just in general, like, don't get me wrong, Georgia, they're a nice, decent side, pass around, but like they're ranked 90 something in the world for a reason. Like, at the end of the day, they never really look like scoring. That's a game we should have been going out and trying to win. And I agree with you, the atmosphere did kind of pick up. Like, the end of Martin O'Neill's reign was awful. I remember the Northern Ireland game, his last home game. Like, only for Darren Randolph, he probably would have lost 3 or 4-0 in that game. And like the stadium was half empty. It was really, really toxic that night. Like, he did bring that back. Like, even the Georgia game at home, there was a good crowd. Obviously, big crowds to Switzerland, Denmark matches. And like, as you mentioned, even Martin, about the young players, Martin O'Neill, even towards the end of his tenure, had a tendency to talk down players. Mick, in fairness, did do quite a lot of that in terms of talking them up, which was kind of good to see. Even when Adam Ida scored a hat-trick for Norwich in the FA Cup, he was on BT that night, talk positive about him, like talk about like he's not that far away now from making the senior squad. So that was good as well to kind of see. So like, I agree with you. I'd probably rate it like 6 or 7. I think if we'd beaten Denmark that night and all this was still happening, and we're like, right, Mick has got us to Euros, but it's not to next summer, and Stephen Kenny's meant to take over in August, I'd be like 100%. Mick stays on. He got the job to get us there. He's entitled to. Just the way, unfortunately, it's just panned out, and with the results and the nature of the playoff, I just think it's a little bit unfortunate. But like, at the end of the day, like, I take nothing away from Mick McCarthy. He was a great player and a great manager in his first time around, and even this time around was quite decent. I think he will still always have a strong affection with the Ireland fans.
Yeah, just a quick one there. Just I see in the live comments that PJ Maguire put something in about saying he rated Mick's time as 6 at best, and that the team selection against Switzerland does his head in. And I actually agree with that. I had forgotten. I feel like I'd blanked it out. I think we played 5 at the back that night, or 3 at the back, depending on how you look at it. And I think Enda Stevens played centre half, and he had James McLean left wing back, and that really did bother me, especially when you've got John Egan, who's comfortable at 3 at the back and centre half, who did play, but it was just a head wrecking match for me, that game.
I've put the comment up on screen.
Yeah, I can see it. It's yeah, and I think overall, look, I suppose because of my age, for no other reason, the first Ireland manager I can remember is Steve Staunton, which was a terrible start. Then obviously we had Trapattoni, which was so. Obviously had a good qualifying campaigns, but not much really in terms of standout moments. For me, I'll always highly rate Martin O'Neill's time as Ireland manager. I know towards the end it fell apart, but I think O'Neill's whole, not just his squad, but his entire ethos was built on camaraderie, and I think you see that even in his time at Celtic and Leicester and Aston Villa. That has to be a strong core. Up until that Denmark match where we obviously got absolutely hammered, I can't tell a time where Martin made a mistake for me, other than the Scotland game away where we lost. It was away or home, whichever Scotland game we lost in that campaign. We were lucky that Georgia ended up beating Scotland, that we got a playoff spot. But to me, up until the Denmark game, O'Neill had did a great job. The Denmark game really knocked the stuffing out of that team, and it never came back. He had to go. Mick came in and did a good job to get the players' chins back up. I will give him that, but I just think that overall you can't rate him too high. I know you can say going into the last 2 games, getting certain results, but the reality is he didn't get the results. We ended up 3rd in a group. The only teams below us were Georgia and Gibraltar, and I wouldn't have bit your hand off for that at the start of the group. He didn't overachieve for me. He did exactly what he should have done, and arguably didn't get as many points as he should have because we didn't beat Georgia away.
Fair enough. Do you see Pat Curran's comment there? Do you think there will be a change in style? Players, will Adam Ida start playing? Will being in the seat make Kenny more conservative? Will playing free-form football be naive at this level? I think it's a difficult one as well, because people don't understand that the managers at international level get, I'd say, 3 days. And that's not even 3 days of training. That's 3 days with the squad before a game. Then they go and play, obviously, another game. So they get to, I suppose, train with them a little bit. But they never, going into the training, you can't really stamp down a style of play in that time. Like, if you talk to any coach at any high level, they'll tell you, that's just not. But what has been happening, if you speak to Jason Donoghue at under 15s, obviously we did a piece with them. And what they do is every month they have a managers meeting, and they go through all the players who are coming through. And as far as I'm aware, Jason Donoghue's brought all these lads through, so they've been playing a certain way the whole way up with Ireland. So I think that will benefit the team. It's whether the older players in the squad can do that, or what way Stephen Kenny will go about things, because it is going to be a bit mad seeing Stephen in there, because no one expected it really to happen, and it will be a change in style of play. But I'm excited for it. But there's also going to be, I think there's going to be a big change up in terms of the squad. Like if we get to that playoff, I think you could be looking at, about 7 or 8 maybe new players in there if Stephen is to go about it, which most people think he will. I think it might be beneficial for someone like Jack Byrne as well. I think it might be more beneficial, because we were over at a do in London, and he was asked about Jack Byrne, and he said he didn't trust them against the big teams like Denmark and Switzerland. So I just found that comment very weird, and everyone in the room, I think thought that comment was weird. Why would you have a player that you don't trust against big teams in your squad? And obviously he was in the Denmark squad towards the end. Do you know what I mean? Why have someone, if you don't trust them in your squad, why do you have him in it? So I just found that bizarre. I think Jack Byrne's a fabulous player, and I hope he does start getting more of a chance now under Kenny. But I just thought that thing was a bit weird. It makes me think, was this some sort of token gesture or something towards a League of Ireland player, just to have him in the squad just so people get off his back type of thing. Whereas Kenny knows the league, he knows the underage. I was actually really blown away by his knowledge of the under-21s. And Ger, you interviewed him up in Dundalk for the exhibition. And do you remember he spoke about all these players who didn't play till the Toulon tournament? They didn't play first team at their football club, and then after the Toulon tournament, they all went on to play. You're talking Jason Knight, Darragh O'Shea, Malumbi, obviously went on loan. There's loads of them. You could go on and on. I think he mentioned 10 players at the time to you. I must go back and watch it. But anyway, he knows the league and he knows the team inside out at this rate. So I suppose I went a bit off on one there on past comment, but I'll let you have a little say on it, son.
Just sorry there, Keane. In relation, you're saying you expect 7 or 8 new players to come into the squad for that Slovakia game. Which
I didn't say expect.
Well, you think there could be a possibility there could be 7 or 8, but you think there's really going to be much of a change in the makeup of the starting team for that game? Because I don't really think in general overall there still will be. You look at the back 4 or 5.
Glenn Whelan, I don't think Glenn Whelan will be there.
Yeah, I think for me midfield is probably the only position where I think we're going to see a couple of changes. And I think someone like a Jack Byrne or possibly even I think a Jason Malumbi could start that game. I look at the back 4. For me, as long as they're all playing, they're all fit. They pick themselves because they're all Premier League players, Premier League regulars. Maybe the exception of Shane Duffy. There could be a possibility for Darragh O'Shea to come in there, and by the time the playoff come around, he could be a Premier League player with West Brom. But yeah, McGoldrick for me, Long, Connolly, I think they're going to be probably the pick of the board. I can't see Adam Ida, Troy Parrott being the shake-up for the playoff game. But definitely midfield, even Jason Knight, they are definitely players. Because we're all about Glenn Whelan, but for me, someone like Jeff Hendrick, Robbie Brady, these type of players, even James McLean, I know they give it their all and they've done it before in the past with Martin Neal, but since Euro 2016, they haven't really consistently done it at all in the green shirt. And I'm looking at someone like a Jack Byrne or a Jason Malumbi. They're playing really, really well and deserve a chance. And who knows, a big game like that could really just burn it out on them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I just have 2 quick points on the Kenny thing. Is I think the most standout thing for me with Aaron Connolly was he brought something to Ireland that I hadn't seen in a long time, and I think Adam Ida could do the same, and that was just unpredictability. I think putting him on the pitch, the opposition team had no idea what he was going to do, and against Georgia, even though Connolly was only there for a couple of minutes, the defence had no idea where he was running, what he was doing, whereas usually with Ireland it's so predictable. I think Ida could do the same. He did the same for Norwich in the Cup, and obviously scored a great penalty against Spurs. The other point I'll make as well about when you were saying Jack Byrne is not just players in the League of Ireland, but there's a lot of very good players who've just left the league and are getting first team opportunities. I mean, you think Conor McCarthy, it's no secret Stephen Kenny's a big fan of Conor. He's put him in under 21 squads early on. Obviously Conor's over the age now, but he's made a good start for St Mirren, who were starting to turn into some good form in the Scottish League. They pulled themselves up a little bit away from Hearts in terms of results and getting off the bottom of the table. And as well, I think Sean McLaughlin, not just to stick to City players, but the two boys have left Cork City and taken an unbelievable step up in terms of McLaughlin playing championship football and not looking out of place either. So yeah, I think Kenny could see a lot of changes. I know Pa is actually a Cork City fan, so he'll probably be glad to hear me talking up a few City lads.
Are you a Cork City fan by any chance?
Yeah, no, not actually. There's a scarf behind me for. I think it's actually a Dundalk scarf, is it? Actually, it is half a Dundalk.
You just like their merchandise as a key.
Okay, I'm just going to go through some questions here. PJ Maguire, I saw his appointment as long-term. Euro 2024 is where we should be much improved, but will he get that time now if we don't qualify for Euro 2021 and the World Cup? I think it's again, it's going to be something where people have to be patient with. It's going to be a change, and I don't know. Like, people are going, oh, Stephen Kenny's going to come in, he's going to be the messiah. I think that attitude has to stop. I think he will need time, and I don't think we're going to see huge results straight away. We were meant to have that camp in Austria, I believe, the start of June, wasn't it? And
that's right.
With this pandemic now, we don't know if that'll happen. But if that does happen, that can only be a good thing now that we know who the manager is. We spoke about implementing the style of play or whatever. At least if he puts a marker down, people will kind of know what way we're playing. And I do think that Kenny will get the best out of the likes of Enda Stevens, Matt Doherty. I think he will get a tune out of them. Not that Mick hasn't, because I thought that they were, well, not so much Doherty because he didn't really play, but I thought Stevens has been brilliant since he's came in. He's never really, looked like losing the shirt at all. I thought he's been solid. He's been brilliant in the Premier League with Sheffield United. Egan now, I think Egan will be very good for him as well. Egan's probably our best defender at present. I know people will say Shane Duffy as well, but I think they're on par. Like, they're both really, really good. Defensively, we're good, but I think it could be the end for someone like Kevin Long at the back. I think he's just
there to make up numbers in the squad, really. Like,
I think that's kind of indicative of a wider problem with Ireland since I've been supporting him, really. In that I think Kenny, while loyalty is a great thing, he won't be overly loyal to players. Lads like I don't want to pick out players, but there's players there with 80 caps where you could probably guess that at least half of them came from off the bench appearances under O'Neill, under Staunton, under Trapattoni, and even under Mick. That there's just been the same substitutions. Just under O'Neill, I think he used to bring McGeady on pretty much every game, no matter what the situation was, just as his time wasting sub in some games. And I think that time could be given better to players like Ida, like Connolly, even like Darrow Shane, Malumbi, Jason Knight, these lads. I think Kenny won't be afraid. He won't have the same fear, like you said, McCarthy had with Jack Byrne.
Yeah, and just like in relation to what PJ was saying there, like, I think we need to take a similar approach to what Northern Ireland took when Michael O'Neill took over. Similar profile, Stephen Kenny just coming from the League of Ireland. Like, his first campaign qualifying for the World Cup 2014, Northern Ireland were shocking. Like, they couldn't even beat Azerbaijan home and away. Next campaign, Euro 2016, gave them time, gave them patience, bring players through. They topped their group in qualifying. So I agree with you. The aim, regardless of what happens in this playoff and the 2022 World Cup campaign, still has to be the Euro 2024, because that's when a lot of these encouraging under 21 players who are still eligible under 21 for the next campaign are going to be hopefully starting to kick on through.
Yeah. Well, Gavin McGuinness has a question there. How will the players react, especially the English lads who don't know much about him? Well, I think they probably do know about him now at this rate, and I'm sure he's been in contact with them. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot of players, English players and whatever, who are playing underage. Like, you look at Conor Coventry and all these players. Sure, he would have been aware of Josh Cullen and these types of lads. You know, I think Kenny will be the one that gives them their first competitive cap, and that will hopefully put that nonsense to bed. We don't want another Declan Rice situation. Not saying that they're going to do that, but it always comes with the fear now, where every single player who has any sort of other nationalities or associated with, there's always the fear that they might go and play for a different country because of that. So I think there'll be players there, and I think Kenny will only take players who want to play for Ireland. I don't think he'll go and say, "Oh well, I heard you're Irish, or you're a quarter Irish," which I think Mick kind of was doing. I mean, you look around, Patrick Bamford, Will Keane, all these types of players that he was trying to talk up to. No one wants to see them play. I think as Irish fans, we would want to see. No, I think the Troy Parrott hype train needs to calm down a little bit. I think Obafemi is ahead of him in the pecking order, who Stevens worked with, and he talks to him a lot. Aaron Connolly, I think next season is going to be a big season for him. I think the break's actually probably coming at a good time for him. Ida as well. If Norwich go down, which they probably will, he'll probably be kept on to play in the Championship. If he has a good year, it's the Championship. Who knows what? He could probably fire them back up. So there's 3 players there that, you know, strikers as well as what we have. I mean James Collins for me. I don't think he's up to international standards compared to other lads. Maybe he was unlucky at times. I think Didsey. I'd still have Didsey as my number 1 striker, maybe with someone up there with him. I think Didsey's had a really good campaign. I think Mick did get the best out of him. Sorry. It'd be interesting to see if he sticks around now under Kenny as well, because obviously Kenny will have his own certain types. And I think McGoldrick can do a number of things. Maybe not score as many goals as we want, but he can drop deep, bring other players into play. He's good at link-up play. He's good at an assist. You know what I mean? And he's a big physical presence too if we need that. Whereas I think that was missing, and we spoke about the Georgia game, that physical presence of McGoldrick I think was missing. I think that helped us beat us at home, obviously with the Conor Howerton goal with the tennis balls and all that stuff. But just in regard, like, I don't think that Kenny's going to be that bothered by any sort of English lads who haven't heard him. Look, he's Ireland manager now, and I think he has to take ownership of that, and I think he will take ownership of that. But it's funny now because I was only sitting with him at the Homeless World Cup thing, watching the movie, sitting beside him there. It's mad. I can say I was sitting in the cinema beside the Ireland manager now.
Yeah, I just think as well, just when you talk about the English lads who might know much about him, I was trying to look the Irish situation that they put in place with McCarthy in charge and Kenny taking over at a date. It's fairly unprecedented, but there's other countries who've done something similar. Obviously, the Germans did it to unbelievably successful effect. Jurgi Löw was there underneath Klinsmann, wasn't he, for a bit of time before the 2006 World Cup, took over and had unbelievable success from 2008, 10, 12 and onwards. And I think a similar system we can look at as well is Iceland. Iceland's underage was very, very structured. And for the 2016 Euros, as far as I can't remember the name of the manager, I was trying to have a sneaky Google, but Paul stopped talking. They had 2 co-managers, as far as I'm aware, for Euro 2016, an experienced Swede and a younger Icelandic manager, similar to how you'd have Mick McCarthy and Stephen Kenny. Obviously, it's not exactly the same as our system, but Kenny has been involved. He's been there as under-21 manager. Lads will know at least his name, probably his face, and hopefully, not that we'll have the same success the Germans did over the last 10 years, but hopefully we can see a bit of a step up with the teams.
Just mention as well. Sorry, can you finish off? Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, just mention as well with the striking pecking order as well. It's also worth mentioning as well. Scott Hogan's name has to be thrown in there at the moment as well, because his goal scoring form with Birmingham before this break was phenomenal as well. And it'd be interesting to see now if he can kind of keep that up as well.
I actually feel sorry for him.
Yeah, because he kind of came in for that Gibraltar game last season. He wasn't really playing that much first team football, and he struggled and kind of fell out of the pecking order. I thought he'd done okay when he came on against Switzerland away, and kind of seemed to fall further away from the pecking order. But he's really boosted himself since he's gone on loan to Birmingham. He's only 27, 28. I know he's not the youngest, but at an international stage, he's definitely, you'd be saying, he's got 2 more campaigns in him. So if he can kind of continue where he's going as well, he's another player as well that has to be thereabouts in terms of making an impact, come off the bench if not starting.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting comment there. What would you say your mixed best 18 over his 2 spells would be? I think that might be a little bit of fun to do. Just as I suppose in a little bit of a tribute to Mick. I think we'd have to go, actually.
Well, I was 3 and 4 for his first campaign, so I won't be much help for the first one.
Well, I'll help you, because Mick was my first manager. You said Stephen Staunton was yours. Yeah. So it's either Shay Given
I remember Mick's first campaign.
Yeah,
I'd still have to go with Shay Given.
Yeah, I'll give you
Shay Given.
Yeah.
Okay. For the Iran performance.
Just in general, I know a lot of his maybe better performances came, I think at the end of the time of Brian Kerr, Cyprus away and Switzerland at home, he was phenomenal. But back then, Shay Given, you're talking late noughties, he was one of the top goalkeepers in the Premier League. Randolph, don't get me wrong, very good goalkeeper, but hasn't spent as long in the Premier League as Shay Given. So I think for me, Shay Given still gets the nod over there. Yeah.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I'll take that. I'm sure Darren will be happy with a spot on the bench in that team anyway.
He's the best 18. Darren Randolph can have the keeper jersey.
Yeah, well, and he'd be a very worthy quality number 2 in fairness to him.
Yeah, so we have number 1. Then we're going to go with number 2, Gary Breen. No, I'm only joking. Right back.
I give it Seamus Coleman. I think Seamus Coleman's been a server to Ireland. I know he hasn't had any real standout performances for under Mick, but I think Coleman's presence isn't really, you don't see it. He's such a leader on the pitch. I think you have to give it to Coleman. No, you can put it anywhere else.
Well, hang on. There's Steve Finn and Steve Carr.
Just going to say that.
Gary Kelly.
But the fact you're naming more than one shows no one could hold down the spot. There was no one standout.
That's because they were so good.
But you have to remember that. I know obviously you're a bit younger, Keane, but early 2000s, Steve Carr was phenomenal fullback for Spurs. Yeah, we're talking Steve Finnan was with Fulham that time. Then went to Liverpool a couple of years later. Fair enough, I know Mick was gone, but won the Champions League. I agree. Seamus Coleman, obviously more on the Martin Neal's tenure was probably good. He probably still would share different from me. His name's up there. You go back to Mick's first time, and it's straight away you could just almost see the strength and squad and depth that he had back then.
Yeah, look, I mean, to be fair as well, I did a quiz the other day, and I think Stephen Carr was in a PFA Team of the Year during that time as well. So you've got Stephen Carr. I wouldn't give it to... If we're looking at just Mick's time, I'd say Finnan's best years probably came a few years later under Liverpool. Would that be fair to say? If we were...
It has to be Gary Kelly, lads.
You might as well say it has
to be you. He got us to a World Cup.
We did leave that one out, in fairness.
Are we going to have
a World Cup, lads?
But Gary Kelly's, just again, younger generation, but Gary Kelly's better years have been, I suppose, just before kind of 2002 and all that. Or
we're talking about.
We're looking at Mick for
2000. Mick's two spells.
Yeah.
And Gary Kelly goes to a World Cup. I know he got sent off against Holland or whatever. He played in the World Cup and played for Leeds for 20 years. Seamus Coleman under Mick. He had a campaign, didn't get any tournaments or anything like that. You got to look at it like that and be realistic. Come on. I'm Seamus Coleman's number 1 fan. I'm his number 1 fan.
All right.
But, come on.
You're giving me one later on.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. The older heads. The wiser heads.
I think you might have a case for Shane Duffy probably at centre back with I don't know Richard Dunn.
I go Shane Duffy and Richard Dunn.
John O'Shea.
Let me look at this 2002 World Cup squad.
You really need to think about centre back. That's right. Staunton, I think that stage was kind of coming towards the tail end.
Gary Breen.
Then again, you forget how long Mick was in charge.
Can we just have an 18 of Gary Breens? Kenny Cunningham.
Well, that would make it easy, wouldn't it? Kenny Cunningham as well. Yeah, he was very good. I'd probably have. Duffy was phenomenal this campaign. I think Jack Byrne touched on that live video last night. How good he was on the what was it, the one of the games in Denmark, I think it was. He had a grade 2 calf tear on his calf and came back, played. He was probably man of the match, and he done that numerous times over the campaign. He was injured, came in, was the best player on the pitch. And for Ireland, I think he goes up a number of levels. I think Richard Dunn used to do that too.
Is Richard Dunn? Are we talking Richard Dunn though under McCarthy, or are we talking Richard Dunn years later? Because I don't know if Richard Dunn obviously fantastic Russia performance and stuff. But if we're looking just under Mick's first spell, was Richard Dunn really a standout centre half for Ireland back then?
Well, then we're talking probably Steve Staunton.
Probably not.
Richard Keogh.
Yeah.
But no, if you're going over 18, Kenny Cunningham's probably realistically, or Steve Staunton.
Will we go with Cunningham and Duffy? So I mean, I think Duffy has been great. That goal against Denmark probably puts him in there automatically. The header.
Yeah.
Just going back as well there to that time, we've even left out Dennis Irwin there as well from Mick's first tenure as well. You forget how quality he was, and I know he wasn't there in 2002, but he played the first 2 campaigns under Mick and was phenomenal as well.
I mean, you've also got Ian Hart if we're looking.
But we haven't got the left back. We haven't got the left back yet.
Yeah, I suppose.
So have you decided Duffy and Cunningham then, is it?
Duffy and Cunningham probably get it from me.
Okay.
I go Duffy and O'Shea, but sure.
O'Shea wasn't in the 2002 World Cup squad though, was he? I don't think he made it. I think he was on the reserve list.
No, he wasn't there.
He was
fair
around.
enough.
He was around, but I don't think he made the squad. I think he didn't make the cut.
No, I think he got more of a chance at the end of Mick's reign and the start, maybe a Brian Kerr.
Mm-hmm.
So John Shea would have
anyway.
only been 20 back then, so
Yeah.
not even, it would have been 18 actually.
Yeah, but he was only coming through. I think around that
That's
time
all,
he
yeah.
got like Figo, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So from right then, left back, you're looking at Enda Stevens, or Ian Hart,
Dennis Irwin.
or Dennis Irwin.
James
Dennis
McLean
Irwin.
played one
Okay.
game for us too. We'll put him in there too. He was left back.
It's no competition, lads. Dennis Irwin. Ask anybody.
I'm a big fan of Ian Hart for the free kicks though.
Yeah, but he didn't play a lot of games at left back. He played a lot of games kind of as a centre back, I believe.
I think
for Ireland.
overall consistency, left back, Dennis Irwin.
He's Mr. Consistent, isn't he?
You're not going to fight over Dennis Irwin.
So it's a shame, it's a pity that
Enda Stevens is
also.
Enda Stevens is also hard done by there, to be fair, as well. He had a great campaign.
Yeah.
Well, if we had maybe got to the Euros via the playoff, you might have had a shout, but such as the coronavirus. In midfield then, we're going to go for a flat four, midfield of, well, will we go 4-3-3, because he kind of played 4-3-3 towards the end.
Yeah, he was 4-3-3 or 4-5-1, so I said 3-3 is probably the handiest. Gives us a few more options in midfield.
Roy Keane.
Mick wouldn't be
That's an
happy with
easy
that.
one all day long.
So that's that one done. Roy Keane, I mean, Howrahan, Hendrick, Whelan, Lee Carsley, Matt Holland,
Mm-hmm.
Mark Kinsella.
Jason McAteer.
Yeah, there's a good few of them back
That's
then.
a good
Anyway.
list, yeah.
Well, we'll all agree
They're
on
looking
Keane.
really,
Matt Holland and Mark Kinsella played the World Cup.
yeah, for me, I think Ireland's midfield in general in this campaign probably was quite weak and quite poor, disappointing. So I wouldn't have any disagreements with that three midfield.
I did
As
think
you
Glenn
mentioned,
Whelan
they
had
held
a
the
very
world.
good campaign. I think Glenn Whelan was very solid for what, but I wouldn't put him in. I think he deserves a shout out, but I think he wouldn't put him in.
I think,
You have to remember as well, Matt Holland scored at the World Cup as well. So
and scored a couple to get us there too against Portugal.
yeah, scored a cracker away to Portugal. That's right. Yeah.
So we go with that midfield three: Keane, Kinsella, and Holland.
Yeah, I kind of want to put a modern midfielder in though, but yeah, I suppose
Not really. He switched it up so much though; it was hard. Like even Alan Brown, you had Conor Howard, you had Whelan. You didn't have McCarthy didn't get a game, but there was too much change really to have there was no real partnership in there that you could really, in the same way you can have Holland and Kinsella, for the World Cup.
Yeah, I see Pat Curran agreed with me on the comments there about Gary Kelly. A good few people are agreeing with. So it's good to see everyone's getting in on it there. Someone said Whelan Dino Defo. Someone said Damien Duff, but Damien Duff's obviously gonna
in the front
feature
three.
in the attack if Jer likes it or not.
Have to wait and see.
Right, front three with two wingers and a striker. Robbie Keane all day long as that striker.
Yeah,
easy one.
No question.
Poor David Connolly. He'll feel hard done by.
I'm surprised you remember him.
I have the Wikipedia in front of me.
A lot of people agree with our midfield anyway, so that's good. Then moving on into to the left side, then you're looking at James McLean, Damien Duff, and I think that's really.
Aaron Connolly played one game, but that's beside the point, really.
Yeah, I don't think he done himself justice out there. It's not his natural position.
Would you put Clinton Morris in the front three?
I don't know. Could you put
He's
Jason
not really-
McIntyre away to squeeze him in?
No, I wouldn't put Jack McIntyre near it.
I wouldn't put James McLean in it either. That's
I'd
just
have
my
Matt
opinion.
Doherty in it. If I could squeeze Matt Doherty on the right side.
You're not putting
Keane
Matt
and
Doherty
Duff.
in as the right side of a midfield in Mick McCarthy's best team. He only played one game there. It was against Gibraltar, and it was the worst game of football I've ever
I
seen.
know, but if this was a
What about Kevin
fantasy
Kilban?
football,
Kevin Kilban deserves a shout out. He was a good player for Ireland.
well, you could put Caban on the left and Duff on the right, because Duff did play on the right under Mick, so you could do that.
Mick didn't have. I already picked on Mick for not having a right midfielder in this campaign, so you can't really have anyone from this on the right. He played too many players. He'd Robinson,
Robbie.
Robinson, Brady, Doherty. He'd too many. Alan Brown as well. You can't really pin one down. Maguire. I wouldn't give it to someone in the comments said Robbie Brady. I wouldn't give it to him. I don't think he's done anything since his goal against Italy and his penalty against France. And I'd say since then he hasn't really done much for us. Obviously, that's a lot he did. I'll give him credit where it's due. He got the goal against Bosnia as well. But
I'm loving the engagement here between us and the fans. It's really good. So if anyone's joined us, we're talking about the 18 best players of the reign, the two spells under Mick, and we've got the 11. So the 11 is Shay Given, Gary Kelly. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, Gary Kelly.
Yeah, I'll give it.
Kenny Cunningham and Shane Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
Left back, Dennis Irwin.
Yeah.
And then midfield 3 of Roy Keane, Matt Holland, and Mark Kinsler.
Mm-hmm.
And then up front, Robbie Keane, centre forward, striker, whatever way you want to put it. And then is it Kilban or Duff on the left?
Kilban left side, Duff on the right side.
A bit of a random one here. Still scored a couple of important goals in the latter end of his career under Mick. Tony Cascarino?
Noel Quinn.
Noel Quinn too is still hard on by. We'll have to bench him. We'll be fighting over the bench now.
You have to consider that Robbie Keane is an out-and-out striker. Clinton Morrison is an out-and-out striker. If they could play out wide, they might have a shout. Do you know what I mean? Like I spoke before about Duffy, or say Damien Duff, was kind of shoehorned up front a lot of times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the team if you look at a lot of the players now, I think a lot of those right backs could have played further forward. You know, they were really, really good. Stephen Carr and the likes of them. I mean, Gary Kelly got in our all-time 11, which some people didn't agree with, but it is what it is.
In terms of our
McGoldrick deserve a shout?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's.
I think he'd be entitled.
Sorry, go on.
He'd be entitled to win the 18, not in the starting 11.
I think you've got to have Niall Quinn in there ahead of him. Niall Quinn, Clinton Morrison, even ahead of him.
But he deserves a shout for the campaign.
Yeah. He deserves credit for doing a very difficult job very, very well in this campaign, which was balls were put up to him and he had to try and do anything with him, and he did more than he was entitled to.
Sorry about that. So then that's the 11. So we'll go into the bench then. Randolph, I think, as our sub-keeper.
Yeah.
Dean Kiley.
Absolutely. Dean Kiley was class as well, but he never got a look in. I think that goes to show how good Shay Given was, though, as well.
Dean Kiley, he got a bit of a shout in looking at the start of Trapattoni's, didn't he? And then Given wanted more caps. He wanted to keep getting caps so he could get the all-time cap holder. Wasn't that the story at the time? I'm
not sure, but Shay Given was worth his weight in gold in his prime, in his pomp. So
we're putting Seamus Coleman onto the bench as a shout out.
I think people are mentioning players that didn't play under Mick. Someone's saying Wes Houlihan. I would have 100%. Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman was actually very unlucky, but I think if you were to ask anyone who watched that 2002 team, Stephen Carr, as I said, Steve Finnan, I mean, they're all on par. It's very, very difficult. But if you're going to go over the two spells and the fact that Coleman's captain, I think he has to get in there.
Yeah.
Stephen Carr didn't actually even make the 2002 World Cup squad, which you'd say is very unlucky, given that he was one of the best right backs in the Premier League at the time. You had Gary Kelly and Steve Finnan in the squad, surprisingly.
Yeah, but that's just the quality that we had. He might have been injured, I can't remember, but he was unbelievable for Spurs and Newcastle when they were really good as well, so
even towards the end of his career,
he would have had a lot of the first two campaigns under Mick anyway, surely.
Mm-hmm. I'd say so.
And then you go back to the left back situation. Irwin could play right back as well, so
yeah.
You even look at some of the lads on the young lads in the squad who didn't really make it, and you think what could have been. You're looking at Stephen Reid, Andy O'Brien, David Connolly, who didn't really kick on, and you think, geez, they could have had a great career. Even Ian Hart.
Andy Reid played a good bit under. He would have played a lot under Brian Kerr, Andy O'Brien.
Yeah. But I mean, he's 22 at the time, and he wasn't there 10 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, other subs then, I suppose midfield subs.
Lee Carsley.
Lee Carsley. Yeah. Jeff Hendrick.
I wouldn't give it to Hendrick. I'd probably have Horan over Hendrick. I'd probably have Whelan over Hendrick.
I'd even have Whelan ahead, yeah.
Whelan and Horan.
Just in his performances from that last campaign, like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I suppose some people are saying Carr was injured. The Podge Quinn said he was injured. But yeah, they're all saying he was out with injury. So there you go. That's why Carr wasn't maybe in the squad. So as I said, Seamus Coleman's leadership qualities get him in there on that alone. I think.
Will you put Richard Dunn as
Seamus
well
Coleman,
for the sub?
I'd say
Richard Dunn not getting the team.
No, it was Cunningham and Duffy.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, Richard Dunn, hands down.
Steve Staunton. Staunton. No, you don't think so?
In his earlier days, he would have, but not towards the back end. But what were you saying, Jer?
Given the fact we're naming 7 subs, could you even make room to allow both Kerr and Finnan? Or sorry, Finnan and Coleman, sorry.
Finnan played a little bit of right mid, didn't he? I think Finnan played right mid against Holland.
But then we were kind of top heavy with defenders then, I suppose, don't you think?
Well, look, we're probably missing a couple of players. So at the moment we've Randolph, Coleman, Carsley.
Dunn, I think we agreed on as well.
Dunn.
Or Gary Breen ahead of Dash.
That's 4 subs.
Yeah, so there you go. And we haven't even got on to like Clinton Morrison, David McGoldrick.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's Niall Quinn.
Yeah, Niall Quinn does need a. He was. You look back, people think about Niall Quinn, and you look back and you watch some of the highlights. Obviously, I wasn't watching football at the time, but some of the stuff he was doing at Sunderland with Kevin Phillips was just scandalous. I know that wasn't under Mick, but you forget that he was an incredibly talented player. Even though they say his best game he ever played was in a minor final for Dublin.
But just even his same with Staunton, so even his longevity to play from the Jack Charlton days right up as well as 2002 World Cup and keep himself so kind of in good condition. Like he was, as you mentioned, that season 99-2000 with Sunderland, himself and Phillips, like that was phenomenal. That's when he was at the twilight of his career. Like, so I think just for longevity alone, and like he was the captain as well in 2002, so for leadership as well, it has to be in there as well.
People are saying Jeff Kenna here. Parker are saying Jeff Kenna, and Donald are saying Jeff Kenna from the 2000 qualifying campaign.
Yeah, he was decent.
But
I think well, what did you say there? Noel Quinn. Sorry, but you look at the difference Quinn made. He came off the bench against Germany. Set up Robbie Keane. He came on against Spain and was unbelievable. Won the penalty. He got the foul from Hierro. Drew in Hierro, who was playing for Real Madrid at the time. Absolutely world class. You forget how good that Spanish team were. Duffer was unbelievable that day as well. But I think we're going over campaigns and stuff. You remember Noel Quinn actually broke the goal scoring record before Robbie Keane came along. I know it was 2 goals, but he still broke it, under Mick as well. What?
There's the Cyprus game in the qualifying, wasn't it, that he broke it?
I can't remember who he broke it against, but he did break it under Mick. And as I said, you go back to making differences in World Cups. I mean, you have Noel Quinn there off the bench. He's going to cause problems when he comes off the bench. Yeah. I know it's only fantasy, but So where are we then? How many do we have now?
We're at 5 in the way.
11
more spots.
Okay, 2 more spots. You probably need another centre back just for cover.
I don't know. We're giving you wingers or midfielders. Staunton is a fairly flexible player too.
I think Staunton, because he was so solid again, played in the World Cup, and Egan's probably unlucky. Egan's in the best form of his career now. I think. Yeah. I think he'll be a really important player for us now going forward because obviously Richard Keogh's out. I think Egan now will have to make that kind of step up that Shane Duffy had to make after the Euros, which he's made brilliantly.
Is Kevin Caban in the starting team?
He is. He's left midfield.
Yeah.
Oh, he's left midfield. So
left wing.
Yeah.
What?
I was just saying, if he wasn't, I didn't know if he was in starting team. If he wasn't, I was saying he'd be the next one for me. But obviously, he's already taken up. So.
Then you're kind of looking around in midfield.
People saying Jeff Kenna for the 2000 Euro qualifying campaign with Mick where they lost the playoff. Obviously, had a long Premier League career.
Aaron's being very generous now. Did you see what he said? We can pick a 23 if it's easier.
I will be here all day with that.
We'd still have arguments.
We'll go for just 18 because we're only 2 away.
Yeah.
I think we've one spot left, have we?
That's one spot.
Who?
Yeah.
We've one spot left.
Wait, who was the last?
We got Randolph, Coleman, Dunn, Staunton, Quinn, and Carsley.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise Staunton got in.
I'd go for another striker then.
Or a winger or a striker. Our lack of wingers is really coming through throughout this. Even back then, you know what I mean, to an extent.
Yeah.
Kilban isn't an out-and-out winger.
What about what's his name? Gary Doherty. I'm joking.
Did he play much under? I was just going to say, did he even play much under Mick?
I think he was so good that he played centre back and striker. So you could have him in there for.
I remember him actually. I remember him from FIFA back in the day. Don't remember him playing.
Yeah.
Top scorer for Euro 2004.
Was he?
I think so. Yeah. He definitely got the winner in Brian Kerr's first competitive game away to Georgia. Last minute.
Yeah. So we looking around. I think Clinton Morrison. I think we have to be a bit more lenient and maybe pick a recent player. I think Dave McGoldrick deserves it as a backup to Quinn.
McGeady. There'll be war. Someone saying McGeady on. McGeady didn't even play under McCarthy, did he?
No.
Thankfully.
He didn't play.
Yeah.
So that's the 18 under mixed 2 spells. The best 18. So it's Shay Given, Gary Kelly. Who was at the back then?
James Coleman.
No, he wasn't the bench. Gary
Kelly.
Kenny Cunningham.
Shane Duffy.
And Cunningham and Duffy. Then you had Irwin left back. And then it was midfield three of Kinsler, Matt Holland, Mark Kinsler and Roy Keane. And then you had Kilban, Robbie Keane and Damien Duff on the right. And then the subs were Randolph, Quinn, Staunton, Carsley, Coleman,
Dunn,
Richard Dunn, and
Didsey.
That's a fairly strong 18, to be fair.
Yeah, and we've even left regular Premier League players from mixed time out there, like.
Yeah.
But first time it was 18. We were only given 18.
It just shows even quality, like that still wouldn't even make the matchday squad, but say for argument's sake.
Yeah. Well, we've had a fair few people on there. I thought that was a good little thing just to kind of remember him a bit more, you know.
Yeah. Someone shout out Ian Hart. Ian Hart is a bit of a shout, to be fair, as well. Obviously, I think he was in that time of football where if a player left England, they weren't really followed. He was over in Levante and he came back obviously in his later years, but he was a very good player. Obviously, he had his own injury problems as well, so he never really stayed consistent with Ireland during my time watching it. People saying Duffy wouldn't lace peak Staunton's boots.
Is that your dad?
It is.
What a classic. But well, no, if we're just going off Duffy, how good Duffy was this campaign. I think he was our player of the campaign. But there was a couple. I mean, when I spoke to Duffy after the Denmark game, he said Randolph was the player of the tournament, our player of the qualifying, and I thought maybe Glenn Whelan deserved a shout as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yeah.
We couldn't just name next to the mix 2002 team either.
Yeah, I thought it was a good way to mix it up. But overall, are we happy about Stephen Kenny? Do you think it's probably good to get all the uncertainty out of the way and now just kind of progress together, get behind Stephen Kenny and let's go thank Mick for his duties and let's crack on like.
Not just fans who need to get behind Kenny either. I think it really needs to be a good the FA need to really get behind him now. He'll obviously have ideas, I think, in how he'll set up his staff, how he'll set up the underage staff. Hopefully they really back him now with a good underage structure. It would really, really help. It'll be interesting to see who takes over on 21s. Obviously, there's a lot. Like I know you mentioned, obviously the younger age Jason Donoghue, but there's some really, really talented men working underage with the Irish youth structure. I'd be interested to see whether or not maybe they just promote everyone up one level and bring someone in at the bottom. And I'd also be interested to see who Kenny's assistant is. I know we mentioned earlier that it was Robson for Staunton. Maybe they'll do something similar, or will they look to just bring in someone who he's worked with before?
Yeah,
or maybe someone like Andrews. Sorry, go on, Jay.
He was assistant trainer. We will be interested to see what happens with the 21s because they're at a very, very crucial stage in qualifying. Only 3 games left, 2 games at home, Iceland, Luxembourg, Italy away. Very good chance of at least making the playoff. I'd probably imagine from an outside bet looking in, probably Tom Mohan. I think he's definitely entitled to a chance. He's done some very good work with under 19s. I know he was deprived of a lot of their best players in this European Championships the summer gone by due to club commitments and other things, but he would have worked with a lot of them in qualifying for that tournament in the previous year. I think he's definitely worth a shout. Knows the players inside out. Good to kind of keep someone within Ireland as well, especially when they're at such a crucial stage. It will be interesting to see what Kenny does. Will he move up with Keith Andrews? What's probably going to happen with Robbie Keane's situation? Probably his contract is probably going to expire as well. I'd like to see Robbie stay on because, we've got some good, promising young strikers coming up at the moment. So who better to learn from a forwards coach or a strikers coach than Robbie Keane, like our best goal scorer. So, it will be interesting to see what happens. I expect there's going to be plenty of time to sort this all out because it's going to be a long time again before an Irish team on the 21 level or senior level kicks another ball with everything that's going on and trying to conclude club seasons first.
You see that there? Jim Crawford is the new 21.
Oh,
Dundalk Fan TV.
I've just been talking shite for the last 5 minutes. So.
No,
well, I don't know if that's totally confirmed. That's just them saying it. But Jim Crawford was obviously involved with Stephen Kenny's staff. He was him and Andrews that were the assistants or coaches. I'm not sure, but they were definitely involved. Obviously I know Jim from his Shelbourne days. I was actually only watching them earlier. I was watching the rerun of the Shelbourne versus Hajduk Split game on Shelbourne's Patreon, which is only €15. So shout out Shelbourne. But Jim came off the bench.
One other thing is just as well as that needs to be said, I think, as well is in a wider context, I think the fact that Stephen Kenny has gotten the Ireland job is very good for the League of Ireland. I think it is kind of shows not just the coaching staff but also players that there is a strong pathway from the league. It's another step up. I know, like you look at lads like I know I shouted them out earlier, but McCarthy and McLaughlin and Jamie McGrath and even Ronan Curtis, lads moving over from the league player wise. It's a good boost for anyone coaching in and around the League of Ireland as well. I think that the FAI are seeing someone like Kenny's achievements in the league and saying, okay, this guy's ready, and it's obviously a big platform for Kenny, and if he does well, it'll only help the league, I think, further.
Yeah, well, and this is it. And we mentioned obviously earlier that he's going to be doing stuff with the league. He knows the underage players. He knows a lot of talented underage players as well. Mandreo, Darragh Leahy. He's kind of all he's already earmarked all these players, and I think these will be players that might get a look in as well, whether it be friendlies, whether it be whatever. But
even if the Nation League is before the playoff, he's got a chance to give anyone a run out. Really, these games, while they matter somewhat, they won't matter hugely either. If we at the end of the day, the qualifiers are the big games, and he's a chance to experiment if that is that the playoff matches are after the Nations League, which it looks like it might be.
Yeah, well, I think we'll leave it there. I think at this stage, kind of we're thinking about it. Thankful for what Mick's done, and we're looking forward to see what Stephen's going to do now. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. We kind of rambled on a bit more than we thought we were going to, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Huge thanks to Jay and Cian for coming on. Make sure you give them a follow. Their social media handles are there. And if you're new to the channel, why don't you give it an subscribe, lads? Thanks very much for coming on, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you later on or something.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Bye, Mick.
All the best, boys.
Just want to say thanks for all the memories, Mick.
Yeah, absolutely.